Chapter 13, putting music into words, writing about music. Since music is typically a non-verbal art, it's hard to talk about it, but that's the way painting is also, right? Verbal art would be, literature. Different kinds of literature, right? Different genre of literature. So Aaron Copland, another one of the top 5 composers of the 20th century American, says that there are 3 planes of listening, and this is sometimes hard to grasp what somebody's conception of these 3 are. But he says the sensuous level, where music washes over the listener, and the expressive, where the emotional power is the forefront. This music makes me happy, it makes me sad, it motivates me, it excites me, it depresses me. It's about death, and then the musical aspects of it. I love the trumpet section. Drums just drive me nuts, and that kind of thing. And then, of course, when you're going to talk about music, you don't have to, but you can use the knowledge that you have to describe things. If you can stay out of trouble, sometimes a little bit of information can seem like it makes you an expert, but then the expert reads it and says, this person really doesn't know what they're talking about. But nevertheless, it's try and use what you know. Is it a fugue? Is it polyphony? These types of things. Is it not polyphony? A concert hall. And then also when you're writing, you can reference things that happen in music. Like, oh, I love when the cymbals crashed. And then, then they did it again and it was exciting. Or you could talk about, the organizational features. Always a theme and variations. And there were 17 variations. Anyway. It had a lot of consonants. It was the dissonance annoyed me, but it was resolved. It was a piece in major or minor. It was a piece that was for soloist and orchestra, and the orchestra would imitate the soloist. The piece of music was designed to be written for Star Wars, and it was about Darth Vader, and the music was supposed to make you conceive what Darth Vader is all about. And then subjectively, yes, I agree. I thought that did happen. It made me feel a special understanding of Darth Vader. And of course, you can always research and find out what others have said and consider what they have said. And it's interesting, sometimes critics from the original time when pieces are written, they say the most ridiculous things that later we say, wow, what was this guy thinking about when he wrote this piece, wrote this criticism? And of course, you can talk about, again, musical elements of the texture, the rhythm, the meter, melodic motion, like that. I like this slide right here. Look at it. It says the necessary study tools for music. What are they telling us? Well, you have to listen to the music, and then you can research and find out. But these are the necessary study tools for music. You don't want to get too carried away in one thing or another, and it's always a challenge to write and to be creative. Fill up the page. uh, you can compare, right, and contrast. You know, like I went to the concert and the first piece of music was like this, and the second piece of music was like that, and or you know, in any different way to compare and contrast. And then you could always question, say, you know, this was written by Beethoven, and they said it was romantic, but I think it was actually classical, and it was from his early period, and you could be right, right? Sometimes you have to listen. Well, most of the time, you're not going to get it on the first listing. You're going to have to listen to things many times. The Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, I've probably heard 100 times, and it's still spectacular to me. We'll talk about that later. And these are two impressionist paintings. You can, you know, immediately say, well, they're similar style. Same painter, I believe. Disco days. Vinyl records. I don't know if any of you have a record player, and I still do. I have over 500 records. I haven't bought one in a long time, but I certainly did before CDs, and there's a lot of it's analog as opposed to digital. You know, if you're familiar with how it works, because there's a physical groove on a record that has embedded in it two um, a left and a right channel, right, on that track, and uh, it's a physical feature of bumps and you know information that's engraved in the groove, and so the needle just takes up what's happening there and then reproduces it and come out the speakers, as opposed to digital like a CD where it's converted into computer code, and then the computer code has to be reconverted so we hear it. And some people think and that there is a difference in the quality of the sound between whether it's analog from vinyl records or digital. And there are companies that manufacture records that they don't. I'm not talking about record producer. I'm talking just the factory where they produce them. And I know that I think there's like one or two in New Jersey that have never stopped making records, and they work like 24 hours a day, factory producing records. You know, groups come out and they're collector items. So they're only going to produce 5,000 of these, and people pay grand amounts of money to own these. For one, another thing is because the format is so large, there's a tremendous amount of more information that's easily viewed, and artwork was just a major part of manufacture of records because you had a large format compared to the CD. Okay, that's the end of chapter 13. And when it comes time to write a concert report, I always say there's three things that you do. It's like you write, first of all, what did you see? Secondly, what did they do? And third, how did you like it? And I have some guidelines on writing a concert report. So we'll address that at a later time. So that's the end of chapter 13.